What's going on, everybody? All right, today is a special day. You know it's a special day because it's MidLife Live Day. So tonight, I hope that you fight the urge to watch the football game, or maybe have the football game going on in the background. Well, I am joined by my friends Tony, Southern Collector 14, Darren, Return to Collecting, and the one and only Mike Petty. This is going to be a fun one. Again, it's 9 p.m. Eastern tonight. Monday, tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it. I hope you join us. If you don't, I understand. There will be a recorded version that we'll post, but it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about a lot of things. I have some interesting questions for them, including I asked each of them a question I'm especially curious about, which is if you could only buy cards of two players for the next several years, you could only buy two guys, who are the two that you'd be buying? I think that'll be interesting to hear their thoughts and their reasoning for that. So, again, I hope you join us tonight. Today, the question I had for all of you is as follows. I said, hey, the hunt, the chase for the right card, whether it be the card itself or the right copy or the right eye appeal or the right grade or however you collect, is that better, or is what better the card acquisition and the card research and the card organization? And is it overrated? Is it underrated? What is it? The hunt, the chase of the card collecting journey, is it an overrated or underrated thing? So, with that said, let's hear your thoughts on this. Look at that. Let's try that again. Let's hear your thoughts on this right here. Some of you out there said, it's all about the hunt. This first one says, the hunt is by far the best part of the hobby for me, almost to a fault. I should take more time to hold and enjoy the cards I have. Once I buy a card and check it off the list, I don't think much about it again and am instantly on to the next hunt, sometimes before it even arrives in the mail. This one says, hey Greg, I could take this two different ways. If you mean the hunt of breaking or ripping packs to find hits, then it is overrated. If you mean the hunt of searching card shows and auctions for the perfect card that you desire, then that is underrated. I think that is a lost art, and mostly older collectors are doing that anymore. By older, I mean guys in their mid-40s and up. And there is so many variations of cards today, I don't know if younger folks even understand the concept. This one says, the hunt is the most important part of my hobbying and is underrated because it takes up the most time. I love my collection, but what I remember most when looking at my collection and reminiscing is the hunt and the final acquisition. I was first a set collector, and putting vintage sets together was more of a challenge. I attended local shows and card shops and mail orders such as Kit Young, and the cards seemed to be so rare. From 1996 on, I attended most nationals and was able to put together my sets quicker, depending on my cash. These days, with so many auctions and shows, the hunt is much easier, but still fun and rewarding. I love to shop. The hunt will always be the biggest part of my collecting. This one says, nice video. I'm a vintage guy, but love some modern players too. Topps Heritage and others are a great blend of new and old, and I've started to collect new players with old school feel. It's great. As far as this week's question, attaining the cards are always great, but I think the hunt is very underrated. Whenever you have to really work for something, it always feels better when finally achieved. Things that are just handed to us on a silver platter or easy to obtain without work generally are taken for granted. And finally, this one says, wrong shade of orange. Go Illini. Great job on Hobby Hotline. Wasn't live on that one, but watched. was watching you live on Jeremy Lee, though. Good luck with the podcast. You and Mike Junkwax Hero will be great together. Love the sport flicks. The hunt is underrated. While the acquisition is the greatest part, it is always more rewarding when there is a hunt behind it. All right. Some great points in there. A lot of things I agree with because I think I probably identify most with this category of the hunt being an underrated aspect. I love the hunt. I think a lot of people who were longtime set collectors. Why are you a set collector? Why do you build sets? It's because it's the hunt of trying to find each and every card. And then when you get to the end, and there's only 3 or 4 cards left, and then you find one of them, that euphoria that you feel when you add one of those cards is such a good feeling because you've been looking for that particular card for so long. And some of these sets, the completion is just this finality of this long journey, this long hunt that is out there. And I think that some of the things that were mentioned there is so true. Larry mentioned, back in the day, it was hard to find cards when you were building sets, especially vintage sets. You couldn't just go on eBay. You couldn't just go on ComC, scroll, find the card, click, got it. Is one of the reasons that set collecting has gone away is because the hunt isn't as hard. Has it become too easy to find all of the cards? If I wanted to build a 1965 Topps set, I'm sure between eBay and ComC, I could come pretty darn close to building that entire set by the end of the day. Just by scrolling, clicking, adding to my cart. Is that part of the reason, maybe, for some people, that they went away from set building and set collecting? Maybe, maybe not. Is that the reason that we're all so interested in eye appeal now? It's not hard to find a 1960 Topps Roberto Clemente card. That is not difficult. We could go on eBay right now and there's probably 20, 25 of them for sale. We could check that card off of our box right now. But could we find the one with the right eye appeal for us, at the right price point for us, in the right grade range, meaning price point? That would be much more difficult. That would be a much tougher thing to accomplish. So are we drawn to eye appeal? Is part of the eye appeal movement because we just like cards with high eye appeal, well-centered, good color, good clarity? That's certainly part of it. But I think part of it is because it brings the hunt back. It brings back the difficulty of acquiring not the card, but the card. Now think about that for a second. Most cards from about 1952 on right now, if you wanted it, couldn't you by the end of the day acquire that card? But could you acquire that card with the looks and at the price point that you actually like? Maybe not. I really think that this is a huge part of the eye appeal movement. I really think that this is part of the changes in the hobby. As the hobby has evolved, since eBay took off, since ComC has taken off, because like Larry said, he used to go on Kit Young's catalogs, and then you don't really know what the card looks like. You just wanted to get the card at all. The fact that you might be able to get the card at all was enough in some cases because now you had the card. Well, now that getting the card is easy, don't we want more? Now, since getting the card is easy, we got to find it centered because that's difficult. We got to find one that's undergraded because that is more challenging. We got to find one that has perfect color because that is more challenging. Is that why people want a PSA 8 set or a PSA 6 set or a PSA 10 set? I think that's part of it. I think part of it is it brings the hunt back. I also think that's part of the reason why there's been more of a shift to pre-war stuff. Because if you look at the 50s for the most part and the 60s, what you end up with is a bunch of cards that aren't that hard to find. But if you wanted to build a set, if you wanted to build the T206 set, if you wanted to build a set of 1888 Allen and Ginter N19 Pirates of the Spanish Main, I mean, let's just say some wild person wanted to do that. That's not easy. That is about the hunt. It is about looking around. I got to check Facebook. I got to check the auctions. I got to check the non-sport dealer at the National. Everywhere I could go, I'm using all of my networking, all of my different options to find each and every of the 50 cards because they're hard to find. Is that why non-sport has recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, taken off? It has taken off. If you look at some of the growth over the last few years in the card industry, non-sport is doing bonkers more than it used to. Prices are going crazy. Is that because it brings the hunt back? I mean, you look at a guy like Ryan Nolan, right, of Breakout Cards. Been around, really respected guy, great guy, really smart guy. He has pretty much gone away from baseball cards. And he has gone not exclusively into non-sport cards, but somewhat. And I have to believe that a big part of it is because they're so much rarer. When there's a card that's a pop 6 and you find one, I think the euphoria hit. I think the release of the endorphins is so much greater than when you go, I think today I'm going to go buy a 1965 Topps Roberto Clemente. Scroll, scroll, scroll. Okay, which of these 20 do I want to buy? I want that one. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm not saying that that's not the right way to collect. What I'm saying is I think part of the reason that there has been a shift to pre-war, I think part of the reason there has been a shift to non-sport, I think part of the reason that there has been a shift to oddball cards is because they're hard to find. Because if you look over the last 4 or 5 years, since COVID, since the pandemic, what has gone up the most? It's rare pre-war, it's autographed vintage, it's oddball, and it's non-sport. What do all four have in common? They require a hunt. They are less plentiful. The population is much, much lower. Why have we suddenly had this shift where way more people are going after things with low populations? Because it requires a hunt. I think the hunt is a huge part of the shift to the hobby. That's just my take, though. Now, we do also have to fight the urge. I think it was the first comment said, I love the hunt so much that as soon as I buy the card, I've kind of moved on. I've kind of moved on to the next thing. So when I was growing up, when I was like in high school and college, I remember being in the dating scene, there'd be girls that I'd be like, oh, I'm interested in her. And I remember that I would be pursuing a girl. And then I remember as soon as that girl liked me back, as soon as that girl was interested in me, I was kind of like, It was kind of a let-off. I'm not proud to say that. I'm not proud to admit this, but I know that a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. There is something in our DNA, there's something about pursuing and hunting and finding and working on acquiring that is a drive within us. And then once we acquire, we're like, okay, cool. what are we going to look for now? I don't know if it's about like, hunting for deer with spears with sticks on the end of them. And we just have this thing ingrained in us where we're always trying to go find the next, I don't know what it is. But I think I'm not alone. Now that I have my wife, I'm not interested in going and hunting and pursuing gals anymore. Now, I know some people that doesn't stop them. That's not me. But I do remember when I was growing up, I remember that pursuit as being a fairly addictive thing. I don't know. I think we have to fight that urge. I think with a lot of things, but with cards too. And that's why I did a video not all that long ago. What are we all doing to ensure that we're actually enjoying what we actually have right now? If all we're doing is, I got to find that card, I got to find that card, I got to find that card. Okay, stick it in the box, stick it in the box, stick it in. I'm going to leave that joke alone. Oh boy. I would say that we can't only be excited for finding the card and acquiring it. We have to find more ways to enjoy it.
Some people said, for me, the hunt, well, it's just meh. Hall of Fame commenter Bob Boozle says, the best part of collecting is when I slide a newly acquired card into my box of trophies and eerie Dexter music plays in the background. I'll have my Cabana Boys hunt the cards for me. And finally, this one says, most cards I hunt seem to appreciate over time. I hate the hunt. Just give me the damn card quickly.
Now, I was seriously curious if anybody would say, no, the hunt is not that big a deal. The hunt is underrated or is overrated. I think it's really about having cards and enjoying cards, because that's a perspective that I think a lot of us want to have. What a lot of us want to do is we want to go, man, look at all these awesome cards that I have. Let me sit back and enjoy them. It's just like those of us who have families and wonderful spouses and we have kids that we love and we have a job that provides and we have all these things, yet we're not content. We're like, but I wish I just had that. And I'm guilty of this. I'm very guilty of falling into that category, of not being content. I want to be more content. And I want to appreciate what I have. And there are times where I take a step back and I force myself to do that. And with cards, it's the same thing. But and Bob Boozle remains undefeated. Great comment from Bob Boozle. A lot of sarcasm in there. But the other comment was a really good point that I think that we can't overlook. If we're hunting and hunting and hunting and hunting for the exact perfect specimen, there are times where that specimen might quite possibly become unaffordable. So a lot of people watch baseball collector Mike Moynihan for the last couple of years. If you were to ask him going into any show, what's the card you most want to acquire at this show? He would say the 41 play ball Joe DiMaggio. And he's been looking for that card. And he hasn't landed that card at Strongsville, at the National, at the next Strongsville, at the next National. And it's one of the highest cards on his want list. And during those 2 years, as he's been hunting it, the price has soared on that card. There are times where if we're looking for the perfect thing, that maybe we almost get priced out. That we almost maybe get to the point where the card climbs in value over the amount of time that transpires in the time that we're searching. It's like sometimes when you're looking for a house, and I'm sure a lot of people have had this happen, where you're looking for a house, and because there have been times in the market where the housing market is just going up so fast, and you're going, nah, that house isn't quite right. No, that house isn't quite right. No, let's just keep waiting. And then before you know it, houses have gone up $50,000. So finally you just go, we just got to buy a house. And then you buy a house that maybe isn't the perfect house because you're tired of the house prices going up as you're hunting for a house. I think that's happened to more than a couple of people who are watching this. So there are times you have to say, I can't keep looking for perfection. I just need to find something that's good enough. And don't do that with your spouse, by the way. Don't do that with your spouse. But there are people who maybe have done that with their house, with a particular card. So there are times where you're like, am I just being too picky? Am I being too picky? Am I wanting the perfect house at the perfect price and now I'm just absolutely ruining my house purchase situation? Or am I waiting too long to buy a card and over the course of time, the card has gone up in value to the point where it's no longer affordable or it's so much more expensive, I don't even want to spend the money that I was going to spend on this because it's worth X plus a huge amount? So can we overhunt? Can we look for something that's not even there? Maybe it's with a significant other. If you're looking for a significant other, and that significant other, your idea of what you want or what you need in a significant other is just unrealistic, maybe you just find yourself all by yourself. And is that better or worse than just settling for something that has issues and flaws? That's a tough question. I think there are times where our expectations might be unrealistic. If you're looking for a 3 that looks like an 8, that is priced like a 2, you're going to be hunting for a while. You're going to be hunting for a really long time. But there was that one time where you found a 3 that looked like an 8, that was priced like a 2 in that other card. So why can't that happen again? I mean, it's possible, but it's not likely. And it's not probably super realistic. So I guess what I'm trying to say, what am I trying to say? I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying. No notes. I'm just saying what I think. And what I think is the hunt is fun. The hunt is great. The hunt makes the final acquisition that much better. When you've been patient, a lot of us love the hunt. In fact, I think more people need to find areas to hunt for cards. If you're kind of finding a bit of boredom at the moment in cards, if you're finding yourself in a situation where you're like, cards are okay, I think it's because there are parts of the hobby that have become too easy. And that's why all of the not all, I can't say all, a lot of the hobby has been drawn to eras, different types of cards, eye appeal cards, centered cards, something that's harder to find. But we also have to be realistic. If there's a card that you've been looking for, I looked for my perfect Ernie Banks card for 30 years. And I found it. And I found it at a great price. So Greg, how can you lecture us? I'm not lecturing you, by the way. I'm just spitballing. I'm just having fun talking about cards. How can you tell us that won't happen to us. It might. It might. But keep in mind, when I started looking for that Ernie Banks card, it was probably about a $300 card. And I paid $1,500 for it. So it 5x'd. Did I get a great card at a great deal? Yes. But did it cost me 5x what it would have cost me had I bought it 30 years ago? Yes. So there's always a give and take. I think the hunt is great. I encourage you to find something to hunt. I think the hunt is underrated. But per that last comment, I think that's a great point. That there are times that there are things that you want that if you're too picky, you'll end up with nothing. And nothing might be worse than something that you like but don't love. Unless it's a spouse. Don't settle on a spouse. That's just my opinion. All right, guys. Some of you thought it was a little bit more complicated than a simple overrated, underrated, and it fell somewhere in between. So let's hear from some of those.
Some people said, well, it's just complicated. My guy John with Nerding Out with Cards says, interesting question, which is probably why you asked it. I would say the hunt is properly rated. It's simply a fact of our collecting lives. I'm sure the stress it causes, or conversely enjoyment, would vary from person to person. This next one says, looking forward to the new podcast, Greg. Looking forward to it. As for this week's question, I think there are a few factors. How long have you been hunting? Where have you been hunting? I find the longer you've been hunting for that card, it's more satisfying when you find it. Also, totally different experience at a show versus eBay or online. Nothing beats that rush of seeing the card, negotiating for it, and having it in your hand knowing you now own it. So my answer would be underrated. Best part of the hobby overall, in my opinion. And finally, this one says, for me, the hunt is absolutely important and not at all overrated. The hunt usually involves talking to my hobby friends about what's on our lists, what each of us are seeing out in the wild and sharing with each other, and sparking conversations about what the right one is for our collections. Acquiring and owning the card is cool, and it brings a certain level of satisfaction, but only because, in some cases, getting there with the help of your friends was part of the journey. Also, sometimes the hunt involves moving on from parts of your existing collection in order to get there. It took me years to get a 49-leaf Jackie. Every time I look at it, I think about the cards I gave up in order to acquire it. Then I think about those cards and how I got them, and so on. It's an opportunity to reflect and reminisce. I look forward to the next big card on the list, not just because I want it, but because I know I'll probably have an interesting experience getting there and maybe even meet a few new dealers and collectors along the way.
All right, couple more great comments there. So here would be some responses that I have. Now, number one, I really like the comment about buying cards on eBay versus buying cards in person at a show. Now, if you look back at your collection, if you look at like the top 20 cards in your collection, and you say, which ones are the most special? Which ones do I feel connected to? Not the most valuable ones, not the most expensive ones, but which ones do you just go, you're really proud of owning? And then say, of those 20, how did I get this? What was the acquisition like? My guess is the cards that you bought at a card show. You remember where you bought it. You remember who you bought it from, or at least what they looked like. You remember negotiating for the card. I can tell you at every purchase in the last two nationals that I have made, I mean, I've bought 5 cards total at the last 2 Nationals. And I can tell you exactly who I bought each card from. I can tell you, I can remember seeing it in the case. I can remember going back and forth with the dealer. I remember where those cards came from. And as a result, those cards would be a little harder for me to part with than the cards that I just found on eBay, scrolled, clicked buy it now. That's not to say that those cards aren't special too. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is how you acquire the card, how the hunt ended, right? Because this is all about the hunt. When the hunt is in person, when the negotiation is in person, when seeing that card, can I look at it? Seeing it, you're starting to get excited because I think this is the one. I think that this is the one. That is so much more special. And we remember it. We remember it. It's going to be way harder for me someday to let go of a card if for whatever reason I decide to consolidate, if I decide to sell something, if something happens, of a card that I bought in person at a show where I had been longing for the card. Not the card where I just saw it and go, well, that's cool, I'm going to buy it. The card that you were actually looking for. Like at this year's National, when I was looking for a red portrait Cobb. When I was looking for a portrait Cy Young. When I was looking for my Ernie Banks. When I was looking for my Walter Johnson hands at chest. Those cards are cards that are going to be harder for me to part with someday. And I'm much less likely to part with them because part of my connection to those cards is how the hunt ended. And it ended at a show, and it ended in person, and I remember the details. Some of the cards that I bought on an auction site, and I'm not talking about one of these auction houses, which I have some thoughts on auction houses that I'm going to be sharing in the not too distant future. I want to look at some auction houses in the near future because I think a lot of us actually aren't utilizing auction houses as much as maybe we should. Sometimes I've gotten some really good deals through auction houses that I would not have gotten in other ways. But again, more on that to come. I'm going to talk about some auction house stuff. But I really think that the story and the memory of the acquisition becomes part of the card. If you just had your spouse show up on your doorstep who you picked out of a catalog, I'll take that one. And she shows up at your doorstep. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm your new wife. I don't think you would feel as connected to that person as the person where you saw her in a class. And then you said, hey, after class, on my way to my apartment, I'm going to try to walk alongside of her and make conversation with her. And then I'm going to say, hey, want to study together? Because I'm not that good at this class, but you seem to be good at it or something. I don't know what you guys did. But whatever it is, your story is, that makes your connection to that person deeper. The roots are deeper in something where you have memory behind the find. I thought that was a great point. There were a lot of great points in there. I think that John Eric said something great too. Sometimes the hunt creates stress for people. Now, this is supposed to be a hobby. We should never be getting stressed out because we can't find the right card. If you're looking for a particular card and you're not finding it right now, if it's not coming up or auction after auction, you're getting outbid or whatever the issue is, don't let that get you down. Instead, pivot. See, the beauty of the hobby is there is an infinite number of things that we could be interested in. When I went to the 2024 National, my number one target was a red portrait Cobb. And my number two target was a green portrait Cy Young. And I went through the whole room and I looked and I looked and I looked. And there were a couple that were nice. I mean, there were a lot in the room. There were probably, of each of those, 25 of them in the room. Some of them were way out of my price range. Some of them looked like somebody's dog got a hold of it. Neither of those, worked for me. There were a couple that I thought, I think this is a card that could work, but the price was just not realistic for what it was. Or out of my budget. That happened on one or two as well. So what did I do? Did I just buy one that somebody's dog had chewed on? No, I did not. I pivoted. And by pivoting, I found an Ernie Banks rookie card. The Ernie Banks rookie card. I found a Walter Johnson hands at chest card, which I think is absolutely stunning for a SGC3. So sometimes if you try to force the issue, if you try to force something that's not there and it gets you stressed out and then you end up buying the purchase anyway, I think we might be making a mistake. I think instead that is your call to pivot to something else. Pivot to something else that you're interested in. And if the card doesn't grab you, if the card doesn't excite you, you're never going to really love the card. If you walk through a show and you don't see anything that's for you, it's okay to wait. It shouldn't cause us stress that you can't find it. My boy Darren at the 2024 Strongsville, he was looking for one card. He couldn't find that card. He was visibly stressed. He was visibly frustrated. We sat him down. We said, Darren, this is okay. This is okay. You need to pivot. And he ended up having a monster show. He got some incredible cards, some beautiful cards. And that's another thing that was mentioned in here, is going through the hobby with friends. If you just sat down and said, you know what I want? I want a 1954 Hank Aaron rookie card. Let's see what's available on eBay. Scroll. I'll take that one. Bing, buy it now. You're missing out. You're missing out on part of the fun. Part of the fun is telling your buddies, hey, I'm thinking about this card. Oh, yeah, that's a great card. Have you seen one recently? What do you think of the card? What should I look for in the card? What do you think is a price point that would be good for the card? Involving your hobby community is part of the fun. And if all you do is go straight to, I think I want it, buy it. I think I want this now, buy it. You are missing out on so much of the joy of the hobby. I think that we shouldn't be getting stressed when we can't find the card. Just pivot, because there's something else that I'm sure that you would love to have too. Number 2, involve the community around you. Involve your hobby friends. Embrace the research. Embrace the hunt. Don't get frustrated from the hunt. Let the hunt be part of the fun. For me, before a big show, I'll make a list of, I think I want this. And I think I want it to be in this price range. And is that realistic? And then I look at this one and I look at that card and making a list. And then I go, no, I don't know if that card is the right card yet, or I'm going to wait on this one, and kind of narrowing my list. That planning and that thinking through what the show is going to look like and what I want to target, for me, that's a lot of the fun. It's a lot of the fun. So if it's all about the purchase, then I think we're missing out. If it's too much about the hunt, that it creates stress and frustration, and we have unrealistic expectations, so we just aren't ever going to get what we want because what we want is not really possible, I don't know if that's the move. So those are my thoughts on the hunt. I enjoyed hearing your thoughts on this one. Now, a couple of things. First, remember, tonight, MidLife Live number 9. And one of the questions I asked these three guys is the question I have for all of you this week. So my question for all of you this week is as follows. If you could only buy cards of two players or people over the next 2 years, who would you buy and why? So think about that. You have the next 24 months and you're only allowed to buy cards of two guys. Now, well, Greg, that wouldn't be fun for me. I'm in this hobby to buy a lot of things. It's just a fun game. Relax. I'm not saying you should collect this way. I'm just saying if you had to collect this way, who are the two guys you'd buy? I asked that to each of my three guests. And tonight on MidLife Live number 9, we will be talking about their answers as part of the discussion. I think it'll be interesting to hear what Darren, Tony, and Mr. Petty have to say. And I'm also interested in hearing what you have to say and sharing those for next week. But again, the way that I am wired, and I've said this many times, I'll continue to say it, it's not so much for me about the what. It's not so much about what players. It's about why those players. So if you leave a comment down below with your two choices of who you would collect if you could only collect two guys, I want to know what players. I want to know which players. But I want to know why those two players over the next 2 years. And that's what I'm going to press these guys on tonight. I hope you join us. If you don't, I hope you check the recording. And as always, thanks for watching.